Good afternoon. It's Astrologer Cartier, and this is Tea and Tarot Tuesday Blizzard version. So obviously I am outside shoveling my driveway with a long day ahead of me. So I'll be looking forward to my tea much later in the evening. But I thought this would be a great time to give you some astrological updates because that's really what's coming through right now. First of all, tomorrow is my birthday, Sun in Pisces, and I was born with Mercury in retrograde in Pisces. Now, Mercury retrograde is something that comes up a lot. A lot of astrologers talk about it all the time. We have it 3 times a year. Mercury is a planet of communication and commerce. Mercury is the deity that guards the crossroads. And so anywhere that there's an intersection of energy or movement or exchange, Mercury is part of that. Mercury is a planet that's really likes discernment and clarity. Mercury rules the signs of Gemini and Virgo, both 2 signs that are very mentally astute. In Pisces, a water sign, Mercury gets really bogged down in the emotional feels. And so Mercury is considered to be in its detriment and also its fall, both detriment and fall, the 2 no-nos when it's in Pisces. So Pisces is pretty much the worst zodiac sign for Mercury to be in. And I've lived with this my whole life because I have Mercury in Pisces retrograde as part of my birth chart. So actually for me, when Mercury goes retrograde in any sign, I experience a little bit of a relief. I experience it easier to communicate, easier to feel like I belong in this world, easier to flow, which as a Pisces is what I'm all about, is the flow. So Mercury goes retrograde on my birthday. It's kind of like a birthday gift from the universe, but not exactly the one I wanted. I was supposed to be today picking up my cake and going to my birthday party that I had planned at a drag show in Providence with a whole bunch of my friends coming out to celebrate me. And all that got canceled on account of this. So we are just dropping the ball on all that, maybe rescheduling, maybe not. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the astrology right now because it's super poignant. Obviously, it resulted in this blizzard. So when we think about that energy of communication, connection, commerce, it's all been brought to a screeching halt by this deluge of the water element. Pisces is a water sign, in the form of snow, gracing us with a Mercury retrograde where we are all physically forced to slow down and reroute, which is what Mercury retrograde tends to do. It kind of brings the flow to a halt and then reroutes things so that you have to kind of pick up the pieces of the past. There's that natural momentum in the energy and flow of Mercury. We're like going forward, we're connecting, we're hitting those crossroads all the time. When it goes retrograde, we're regrouping, we're picking up balls that got dropped. Like what's classic for me under a Mercury retrograde is I get an unexpected bill for something I totally forgot about. Or a connection from the past suddenly shows up. These are all Mercury retrograde themes. So because Mercury retrograding through Pisces is going to be a hard hit for everyone because of the nature of the sign of Pisces, a water sign, being very antithetical to the nature of Mercury. And that's what's manifesting right now. But in addition to that, we just had this solar eclipse. That part of the solar eclipse was Venus being in Pisces, kind of saying we are moving into a time of a lot of Pisces energy, of integrating Pisces. Pisces is the sign on the north node of the moons right now, which means we're all collectively moving into a place of alignment through trust, alignment through feeling our feelings. And all of that connects to what the human design system is saying about the new era that's coming in 2027, the time of the sleeping phoenix, where we are all going to evolve into our emotional capacity and live much more connected to our individual feelings instead of these outside notions of what it means to be part of society. We're moving from a collective time into a very individually focused time. And there's evidence of that everywhere, I think, in the world. So the eclipse kind of ushered in this Piscean period. And then after the eclipse, moving into this whole week, we have had Saturn in Aries conjuncting Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees of Aries. And this is a very powerful, poignant point, again, illuminating the beginning of a new time. This echoes the solar eclipse, just as Saturn and Neptune are becoming conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. 0 degrees is the very first beginning of Aries. So it's a big new beginning. Back in 2020, nobody ever likes to hear about 2020, but here we go. Back in 2020, in January of 2020, there was a lunar eclipse within days of Saturn being conjunct Pluto. Right at that time, the COVID virus escaped the lab in China. At the on that day, astrologers were all saying like, oh my God, this is going to be like an earth-shattering day. And it really wasn't. It was maybe not the most enjoyable energy, but it wasn't earth-shattering. It was kind of a regular day. And then coming shortly down the pike within a matter of weeks and months, we have a global pandemic. So a eclipse conjunction of that magnitude just happened last week with Neptune and Saturn right after a solar eclipse. The dynamic is different because a solar eclipse is more about a new beginning than a period of ending, which that COVID eclipse was a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipses, which we do have one coming up, tend to sort of mark giant bookends of endings. Solar eclipses kind of clear the slate for a new beginning. So we're at a new beginning. We're at this conjunction of Saturn, which forces us to reconcile with real world challenges. Conjunct Neptune, which wants us to spiritually elevate, which wants us to live into ideals. The conjunction of Saturn and Neptune is meaning bringing those ideals, whatever your ideals are, grounding it into the real world. It's that time to roll the dice and take a risk on yourself. That's what this past week eclipse kind of is calling forth. And yet, here we are, at least here in Rhode Island, we are sort of trapped by snow as this Mercury retrograde is coming up. So instead of rushing forth, like Aries always wants to rush into things, we have to kind of slow down. Mercury retrograde is always a time for slowing down and integrating and revisiting. And in this case, it's sort of forced upon us by the snow and the blizzard. So that's a little hot take on the astrology going on right now. Thank you for tuning in and joining me. If you're my fan, please reach out and say happy birthday to me tomorrow. I'd really love it because it is heavy on my heart that everything got canceled. And yet here is this surprise of being able to, I'm actually excited to move into Mercury retrograde in Pisces. It's it's something I'm deeply connected to as it's part of my own birth chart. And so here it is. I get to kind of enjoy that deep flow that is natural to me, even if it means the rerouting of some personal plans. So I'm wishing you all well and safety, and thank you for tuning in to me on this Tea and Tarot Tuesday that doesn't have tea right now or tarot. Bye-bye.